Hi everyone, welcome to the Maple Mosaic and welcome to you three as well. I'm so glad you're here. Before we jump in, I wanted to share why I wanted to do this podcast episode. When I first moved to Toronto, I realized that nobody really talks about what it actually feels like to start over. We talk about jobs and networking and PR numbers, groceries, visas, but we don't talk about the emotional adjustment, the loneliness, the unexpected friendships, all the small wins that keep us going. And I realized something else. Whether you come from India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or you were born here, starting over is hard. And it looks different for everyone, but it feels deeply human for all of us. So, this episode is called What It's Really Like to Start Over in Toronto, because that's exactly what we're doing, keeping it honest, messy, reflective, and hopefully a little comforting for anyone listening who's going through the same thing. And I want this to feel more like a living room conversation and not very stiffy and icky. Like if someone listening is sitting right here with us, nodding and laughing and disagreeing or maybe even crying, and we can just give them a hug. So, honestly, thank you so much for doing this. And thank you to anyone or everyone who's listening. I hope this conversation helps you feel a little less alone in this city. All right, let's start talking. All three of you are South Asians, all three from completely different countries, and all three doing really different work. So, I think we can start off by introducing everyone. So, go ahead.
Start with him.
So I'm Akshit. I'm an analytics senior manager at Royal Bank of Canada. I came to Canada in 2023 as a part of my MBA program at Schulich School of Business. I've been here for around now almost 3 years. I came from Delhi, India, where I spent the first 26 years of my life, which was pretty interesting and it shaped the way who I am today. So yeah, and it's been a fun journey learning about Canadian culture, learning about work ethics, learning about how this world operates as compared to back home. So yeah, it's been really good and quite chilly, but I like that.
I'm Apee. I was born and raised in Nepal, lived there almost all of my life. Then I moved to India to do my undergrad, and then in 2022, I moved to Canada, similar to Akshit, to do my MBA. MBA for 2 years, and then I started my journey in the professional world in Canada as an account executive at Procter and Gamble. Essentially, I do sales for Olay Skincare. I've just been working there for almost 2 years now, um, trying to get adjusted to the winter. Finally, I feel like I'm getting a hang of it, but an interesting journey overall so far.
Hi guys, I'm Zihan. I'm from Bangladesh and I am currently working as a program portfolio manager at Bell Media. We all did the MBA together, like
Yeah.
I don't know
Get
why
that
everyone's
out of
like
the
saying
way.
it separately. We all did it together. Same program. We all come from the same program, but different countries and have careers in like very different areas. Um, I am primarily a musician, but my career in like media is also something I really enjoy. It's like a pretty important part of my life, I would say. Yeah.
Interesting. I so clearly, all three, yeah, of course, you've already said that they're all from Schulich, and that's how Akshat got to know everybody. And then, that's how these guys are on my panel right now. But okay, so tell me, was Schulich the first time that you actually did come to Canada? And that was basically the time when you spent the most amount of time here, right? All three of you.
Yeah.
So if you have to sum up the first year in Canada, what would be that one word that would just completely sum it up?
I would call it stressful
Okay.
because coming to a new country, trying to do apart from the academic work, but also managing the house by myself all alone. So that was pretty difficult. Um, it was quite challenging to understand the nuances of transportation, how the banking system works, everything. So that was quite difficult. But on top of that, spending a lot of money on the MBA had an added pressure of finding an internship, a job as soon as possible so that there's some inflow coming and there's not only just outflow.
My word would be interesting. I think I adjust to new situations pretty easily, so I never really struggled in my first year, and thankfully I had really good people around me, so I never really felt as homesick. So in that situation, I feel like it's a unique situation because I did not have those struggles of homesickness or adjusting to the new climate. I do agree that there were a few stressful times, especially managing finances, living by yourself, managing everything. But that's something I got really used to. Also, being in Schulig and doing an MBA first, I feel made the transition smoother because I always felt very protected and shielded from the rest of the world. And I think that is also in a very literal sense because we were so far away from the rest of Toronto. So yeah, I was just like getting to meet all these new people, and it was a very interesting time for sure.
The word is uncomfortable.
Whoa.
That's basically it, because you are always used to living in your own, like we've all been used to like living in our own like bubbles, in our own worlds, in our own countries. And when you move to a different country, the whole context changes, and there's like a lot of different things that you need to get used to. It's not stressful per se. The stress comes from being in an uncomfortable situation where you actually like don't know clearly what your next moves should actually be. Like you haven't treated those grounds before, so it's new areas, so new learnings and stuff. The reason it was easier for Apee, I believe, is because she did her bachelor's somewhere else outside her home country. So she was used to that change in scenario once. She's been through that once. So adjusting to a new place, she had experience in that. For both of us, I think for me, even more so because I've always been in one city, like for like 28 years of my life, I've been in one city. And unlike people like you guys who have moved across different cities at different points of their lives, it was just uncomfortable. It was just not my people. Even though I found my people within a very short time, that's what Apee said. It added to it. But more, uncomfortable it is.
I remember in the first 3-4 months when I came here, I found some people, like I found two different sets of people whom I used to hang out with. So one set was interestingly from my home country, most of them from my home city, Delhi. But somehow I didn't gel with them. They were from a different part of Delhi or lived a different lifestyle than me. And then the second group I found was including Zihan, including Apee, where I found my most comfort in, even though they were from different countries and they had like different eating habits, different
Eating habits.
and different approaches to life. But I found comfort and home there.
That's so good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why did you say eating? That's so cute.
It was different.
First thing you notice about Newcomers, I was like, oh, they eat different kind of food.
Wait, what do you mean no Rajma Chawal and Chole Bhature?
Yeah.
That was actually easy for me because like I found at least 5 or 6 people who moved from the same like university that I did my bachelor's in, from Bangladesh, from Dhaka. We were friends from before. So like I had a part of a community, and some of them had come to Canada 4 months before. So the part where you have to like find friends, they had done it for us. We just joined them.
Right. Oh, damn. Okay, so like all of you in a way did describe that it was stressful and like, there were some parts. I mean, it was varying, it was different, but there was a level of discomfort. Do you think it had anything to do with the fact that as South Asians were just so used to having help at the house? And then, it's like when you're studying, you're just studying, and everybody, like, everything else is taken care of. When you're working, you're just working, and everything else is taken care of. You don't really, get into the nitty gritties of it. Whereas here, you're essentially doing it all, and you have to do it all because there's no other way. Do you think that was like a little part of the discomfort? Yeah, you wanna?
Honestly, I had assumed it would be way worse than it actually was.
Oh.
I think like getting in the groove and figuring out the cadence of how you need work done across the house, it takes a while, but maybe within the first 2 or 3 months you'll get a hang of that. That's not rocket science. It's the easy stuff. The
Okay.
hard part, I guess, is like understanding people, because like community is important, and like understanding people around you, how they function, how you need to function around those people is kind of important, and getting a sense of the culture around a very new city and figuring out the rhythm of life.
Right.
The rhythm of life is a major aspect because we all come from South Asia where the rhythm of life is kind of faster, I think. Here, to me, it feels a little slow paced. I don't know if you guys will agree. Like, I feel like this is more of a rhythmic life with not enough chaos as we're used to, right? So I am used to way more chaos and getting used to a much slower pace of life, but like a more, how do I say it? Like, you have to be a lot more planned here. You can't be like random. So
Right.
it's just different that way.
Yeah.
That took a while.
Remember one particular incident in the first few months. I have some family here in Oakville, and then I used to go there, and initially they would help me buy groceries and stuff, and I used to carry it in like big Costco bags. So one time I was coming from Oakville to North Yorkville, Shulik was. So I take a bus to one place, then take a train to another place, then take a bus to ride back home. And then at the later part of the journey, that it was raining, I had like bread and everything in the bag, and it was all just falling on those grocery bags. It was and at that moment I thought that I would not go to my family's house and then get groceries from there. I'll rather spend more money and get it myself from nearby. So yeah.
Basically, it was a lot of trial and error, right? What about you, Apee? What did you expect and what did you find? Like,
I was really looking forward to being here because, I mean, I guess as a woman in South Asia, right? Like, I had lived independently for a couple of years in India and then having to go back home. And then in that adjustment phase was really difficult.
yeah.
So I was really looking forward to being here, and I loved being by myself. I was used to doing the household chores myself in Nepal also. I was used to cooking, cleaning, everything. So I didn't struggle in that sense. I think a majority of my struggles came from being able to handle my finances. And it's just the little things. Like, I never thought that paying rent is a thing. Like, I didn't realize that I'd have to worry about whether I'd have a roof over my house or not.
But when you were in India for your
Over
undergrad,
your head.
Scholarship.
oh, scholarship. So you didn't have to pay rent.
And
Yeah.
also the hostel or
Yeah, hostel. That was all paid for. Hostel had nice food.
Right.
Yeah, actually, I feel like because I did my MBA from India, and it was a in-house course for us. So it was within the campus, and there were like me and like other 4,000 people who lived in the same sort of a setup, living the same life, going to the same specific buildings, and just essentially everything was happening together. So it was just so much more easier for me. But all of the stories that I hear from you guys, and all of the stories that Akshit did tell me about, just moving around in the city, there were classes that happened at different campuses, and that's just that kind of freaked me out. I was like, shit.
But
Wow.
like for us at least, most of our classes was on one campus.
One
And we
campus.
all lived in student housing. So we
Yeah.
had a lot of
Oh.
similar people
Yeah.
who were students around us.
Yeah.
The problem is there are widely different people. So they're not from the same country, same background,
Yeah.
same mindsets.
Right.
Finding the right people, as Akshit said earlier, was a challenge, regardless.
What about, I mean, you did mention that, that it was very difficult to find the vibe and to find the right people. But when it comes to networking, And like when you hear the word networking, what actually comes to your mind? And do you see it as an opportunity, a necessary evil, or something else?
I have a very unique approach to this. We will let Akshit start this. He's the better one at this.
Like for me, yeah, networking was difficult. So as a student in undergrad doing engineering in India, right, I was not a very outspoken, outgoing. I was an outgoing person, but I was not extrovert, like going and talking to people. It's that when I started my uh, like first professional experience in India, over there I started meeting more people and then going out on dates and putting myself on in situations where I
Nice dates for practice. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So actually, like going out on dates and like being vulnerable and talking to random people, that helped me uh, to gain some confidence into speaking with unknown people and like trying to find relevant conversations between the two. So when I came to Canada, I had some experience. Like I tried to gain that experience and utilize in professional networking, but of course, professional networking is very different. You need to find common elements. For example, I started watching ice hockey here. I started watching baseball here, or like following Toronto teams because that's a very common way and very nice way to kind of lure into the conversation and then pick up things from there.
Yeah, I think for me, is like the definition of networking has changed a lot over the years. When I was doing my MBA, networking was sort of this task that you had to do, dress up, get on a coffee chat with someone, or go to an event and advocate for yourself. However, over the years, I just realized that networking is just something you do on a day-to-day basis. It just you sort of nourish the relationships that around you, and essentially you're creating a legacy for yourself wherever you go, right? Whatever room you're a part of or you're not a part of, there should be people in that room that can speak on behalf of you and speak good things on behalf of you. And I think like if you take the pressure out of networking and just think of it as a relationship building exercise, it sort of takes the stress off you and you'll also be more comfortable doing it.
Love the perspective. Yeah, and what's your viewpoint? I am very excited to know you put the other two forward. Like you guys speak, and then I'm gonna go ahead with mine.
First, I absolutely hated networking. Towards the beginning, we went to a lot of networking events, and everyone I saw would be doing one thing really well. They would be just going to people and blurting out their entire resume in a span of like 45 seconds. You're not really maintaining or creating a relationship. Essentially, what you're doing is letting him know like how you are somebody. I thought of it like making a friend. Um, I'm gonna be able to be friends with somebody if we have something in common. So essentially what I would do is I would find people who I have like very similar interests with, and I would generally ask for someone to connect me with them.
Yeah.
Like I would not go alone. I would sometimes go alone, but I figured if someone else that I know in my network knows them, it's easier to reach out to them. So that also helps the relationship building when you're getting a referral and then going to talk to them. So I found people very selectively who are within my domain of work, like absolutely within my domain of work, except instead of finding like people all around the country that I can talk to.
Right.
Very focused, the right people, and I had the right messages because I knew the industry that I was targeting really, really well. I had studied that. I spent a lot of time doing like a lot of assignments on that as well. So if you have the right content, sounds weird. If you find the right people, I think it's way easier instead of like trying to think of networking as, hey, I need to let everyone know how I'm good. Also, I think help comes to those who ask for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And in Canada, especially, I figured that was really important. A lot of us from South Asia don't expect help from people in general.
Right.
We think people would be like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll do that for you, but then they won't. But here, they actually do.
Right.
I found that with teachers as well. I would just go to them and say like, hey, I'm interested in this particular role. That's it. I didn't ask for anything. I'm applying. So if you have any feedback, let me know. It was not like I'm asking you to connect me to somebody or anything of that sort. More often than not, if you just let them know and they like you, they will do it themselves, and that is
Yeah.
more value than anything else that you can accomplish by like asking somebody for something.
From my experience, initially, like I was doing the same thing that Zihan mentioned, right? Where just going out and blurting in front of people my resume and how good I am and stuff like that. But like slowly and steadily, I realized that even if you kind of blurt out that resume, they won't remember you. So you have to make an attempt at building those relationships. So maybe having those chats later on, trying to get to know them personally on a one-to-one basis. Even if you are like not looking for or seeking for a job, right? Just casually checking in with them, how they are doing, and what's the interesting work that they're doing. Like if you are also interested in the same, right? So that both of you can speak the same language.
If you're not interested, don't do it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah,
It
it
really
shows.
shows.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? You guys all started off with your opinions, and you kind of all think that you have very different approaches towards networking.
Yeah.
But
pretty
the
close, yeah.
summation is just so
Yeah.
similar. Like, as a listener, what I understand is that, first of all, genuine connection. That's very important. Having a genuine point where you can connect to people, building that relationship.
Yeah.
And then what you mentioned, Appy, that that you create a legacy whereby another person can actually put you forth, and that's what Zihan, you and Akshat both further counted upon. So, in a sense, these are the three main things that I can actually take away from this, and I see that that you guys either accidentally or purposely, either you knew it, you had certain different approaches, you saw it, you observed, and then you pivoted, and you found the way that works best for you, and it could be different for everybody.
I'm gonna add to that there's a fair bit of luck in there as well. There's a fair bit of luck. There are way too many people that you can potentially reach out to. So finding the right person is also important. Like not everyone wants to spend their time like talking to you and giving out like meaningful information. Sometimes you like find the right people in the right roles, but they won't be willing to give you enough information that will actually be helpful for you.
Right.
And I've found some people who are like extremely helpful. Like it's just unbelievable how good they were.
I do have a follow up here. Was it surprising, given the scenario that that there's a lot of anxiety that existed, which Akshit also said that he had already tried dating in order to overcome that. You mentioned how South Asians were used to people just forbeing that they're gonna help you, but here people actually do. How does it affect you?
Yes, I think I'll have a very specific example for this. This was the first call I've had with somebody at a particular company that I really liked, and he was the first person that was like, that was my first coffee chat in Canada, major like success in terms of who I found at that company.
Okay.
And he said one thing like, hey, I like to help people because when I was in your place, someone helped me. So I do the same now. If anyone reaches out to me, I give it back. It's a cycle.
Yeah. No, I agreed with Zihan. I mean, it definitely is surprising. When I was applying for internships, the person that I was reached out to, by the way, so I was working on a group project with one of my classmates, and that's why I feel like relationship building is so important. And then we were just talking about what we want to do, and I told the person, and I was very laser focused that I want PNG like from day one. So I was just telling my group mate that, oh, I want to work in a CPG, maybe PNG. And then his wife had actually gotten into these CPG companies. So he connected me to his wife. He advocated for me. The wife took my resume, through went through the resume with me line by line, gave me a sample. I used that sample. I sent it to her. She edited it again. She had practiced interviews with me. And like, she was so helpful, and I was very, very surprised. But then, obviously, the fact that I had somebody else like advocating for me must have helped a lot. But still, it was very, very surprising, and it was very early on in my journey in Canada. And even when I moved into the company, the company. There were many challenging bits about it, but the people have always surprised me. And one other point I'd like to recount on is what Zihan said before, that you need to know to ask for the help. And when you're asking for help, you also need to know what to ask for.
Yeah.
Like you
And
need to
what
be
not
very
to ask
precise.
for.
Yeah, what to like, who to ask, how to ask. But yeah, the people are super nice and they will give you everything you ask for.
Like, you don't go into the conversation meeting somebody thinking that you would get help from them,
Yeah.
right? I think that's the big takeaway. You just go as your natural self
Right.
and forget about the rest. You think that you connected with that person, and you might have, but somehow that relationship would not help you land a job. But sometimes you would get help in unexpected ways that you would
Right.
never know, and it would surprise you that how it works. So yeah, it's quite surprising, and like, to be honest, it feels nice to give back. We were there where, like, we were there at one point of time asking for help,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Also, just one thing, I think when you're a newcomer in Canada, you sort of feel like you can only ask for help, but I don't think that's true. Like in any conversation that you have, if you go in with the mindset that it's a mutual connection, that maybe there is some way I can help this person, or maybe that person just needs someone to talk to, it
Right.
could be anything, like you never know. So, not letting that power imbalance get to you and approaching every conversation in a way that you want to help the other person out as well, no matter who the other person is, can like broaden your scope of the conversation in general.
An easier solution to networking is finding friends who are good at networking. Then you can rely on those ideas. That really worked for me because he did it.
So, I mean, that also comes from building a network.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Wow. I think for me as well, it was kind of surprising. So, I was working back home, and I was at a certain position where I was at that space where I was giving help. So, when I came in, it was just so difficult for me to ask for help or to go forth and, like, build connections or send people requests for coffee chats, because I was just like, I mean, why should somebody help me? Okay, coming to the cultural sort of questions, have you ever felt like you had to tone down or tone up certain parts of yourself, certain parts of your South Asianness to fit in? And what did that look like? Zian, did you tone down or tone up?
None. I think I was like borderline misfit back home anyway, so
I had a big cultural shock, but that was not during my MBA because again, like our MBA classes were predominantly South Asian, so I never really felt like I was anywhere away. But when I started work, my God, the first 6 months, I would say even a year, was super difficult for me. Initially, I felt like I had to adjust myself a lot, the way I speak, the way I present myself. Like, and it wasn't everything from the way I dress myself, because everybody was dressed to their nines at any given day. They were so well spoken, so smart, like, and so kind on top of it. I was like, these people are like perfect. They don't have any flaws. So I felt like I had to show up a certain way, and like it was very challenging. But the more I got to know these people as individuals, the way I got to know about them, their personal lives, their imperfect sides, that's when I was like, okay, these are not any like weird perfect aliens. They're just people. And once I had that realization, I think there was no need to tone up or tone down anymore. That's when I found my comfort and I could just be myself around them.
I think that like adds up from I can make sense of why I didn't feel a difference because yeah, what she said. essentially during school, we felt no difference. It was the same kind of people, right?
Right.
At my workplace, I had not done any corporate roles before, so I had no expectations going in. So it was
Right.
for me, it was brand new, and the people there did a very good job of making me feel at home. So it wasn't any different for me.
For me, with respect to culture, um, I somehow knew that what I was getting into.
Right.
So I had certain expectations. I had visited Canada before, so I knew a little, and I had talked to certain industry professionals before, so I knew a little bit about how they talk, how they dress up.
English, bro.
No, I mean how they talk in the corporate lingo, what kind of
Yeah.
work they do, and all of that. So it was not a net new cultural shock for me. Also, firstly, when I came here, people talked about the weather a lot, but now I also talk about the weather a lot. So,
Oh.
Meet somebody and have no topic to start with.
Yeah.
Start with the weather. It's like always a
Yeah.
good place to go. Everyone's mad about it. So
I remember when I used to talk to Akshit like 2 years ago when I was not here, and he would just start talking to me about the weather as well.
I do
by
with
the
my
way.
parents as well by now.
Like, yeah, I realized I do it to my parents as well. Like, I would just be like, do you know what's the temperature? It's 0 degrees, but do you know what it feels like? It feels like -12. Like, I have no idea.
He was 8 in the morning.
Yeah, but it's so insane. Like, I get that. I get the weather talk completely. And I used to find it so infuriating. So I just wonder if my family finds it infuriating as well. So, if a newcomer comes from your home country and lands in Canada tomorrow, what's the first piece of advice, like real unfiltered advice that you'd give them? One advice.
That's a toughie.
Take your time. It's cool.
go and buy a parka first.
Oh,
That's a good one. Legit.
buy a super puff, guys.
Okay, buy a parka, buy a super puff. What about you?
My friend Murtaza came here like 3 weeks ago, and the first thing I told him was have patience. Everything takes time. Everything takes time. Having patience is really important. It's really easy to like question yourself when you are thrown in a situation like this where you don't know much, and it does take a lot of time to find stability. So having patience is like extremely important.
Yeah.
It pays off.
And don't be afraid, I would say, to ask for help, as people mentioned before. Like, help will be given. It's just that you need to, don't be shy from asking for
Yeah, we are
help.
just quoting Dumbledore at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
You just go ahead.
Yeah. I saw that. Help will be given to those
those
who
who
ask for it. Yeah.
I would say just enjoy. Like, this is a great country. Not everybody has this
6 months of the
opportunity.
year, this is the great country.
Yeah, and while it might be hard to see things like that, like we're all incredibly lucky to be here, so just try to enjoy every bit of it.
It's a beautiful country indeed, Appy, and the people here are amazing. So while we are here, we've got to enjoy it for sure. Thank you so much to all of you, Akshit, Appy, Zihan, for sharing so openly today. What I keep coming back to is this: starting over isn't glamorous, it's gritty. It's not about pretending everything's fine, it's about finding people who remind you that you're not doing this alone. I think Toronto doesn't give belonging instantly, but it does reward honesty, resilience, and genuine connection. So, if you're listening and you're still figuring it out, you're doing just fine. We're all still figuring it out too.